soon as we go live, and we're coming up here on the transcoder. Do I see us? I see us. Yes, I do. Now let's play the music, and here we go. You can dance with me.
So you want to be
So you want to be
a
cool kid. Hanging with the inset.
looking real,
Getting ready for the drums.
Okay.
you and fine.
Here we go.
Asking you thanking me.
Here we go.
So you
Want
want
to be. Bop, 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 bop. There we go. I'm going to lower the volume here and let's get this party started. I'm Bonnie D, and I have a special guest today. Her name is Karen S. We only go by initials here, but she might sneak in her last name. This is more Two Saucy Dames. Karen is one of a triumvirate of 3 authors who were recently on my Read My Lips Cool Conversations with Creatives radio show. They've co-authored a wonderful book called Widows Among Us. We'll talk about that a little bit. And I have spoken with her co-authors, her colleagues, her co-conspirators. I could say that, but no political overtones here.
No.
Karen J. and Rebecca L. And now I get Karen S. You're my third Karen. I have a Karen G in Hawaii. I have Karen J, your colleague, and now I have Karen S. Maybe we
Karens
get
are
more.
wonderful.
I'm getting to believe that. I really
They
am.
are.
So here we're just going to talk, we're going to chat, and let me do my little opening poem first, and then we'll find out more. So here we are, Bonnie D and Karen S on the show, seasoned speakers and writers you may know. In the halls of social's embrace, we're sharing inspiration with style and grace. Karen S, co-owner, co-author of 3 Widows LLC, found her voice so true. Also the author of I Didn't See That Coming, she guides with wisdom's view, preparing spouses for life's unwelcome surprise with strength and grace. Karen S. helps lift spirits to rise. Now on We Dish, we're here to play, lighting up life in a fun, fresh way, chatting on culture, wacky news we adore, music, food, and laughter, and oh, so much more. No politics or gloom here. You're liking this. No politics or gloom here, just joy and delight. Join us live or on demand, day or night. We'll be sleeping, but you can find us. Meet us for real with comments in tow. Play nice. You know who you are. You know. Bonnie D and Karen S., your 2 saucy dames today. Today we dish on life's joyous games. What do you think, Karen?
Love it. I love it.
Thank you very much. I'm happy
Love
to
it,
have
love
you
it.
here. So listen to me. I want to know more about you. I gave a little poem. You know, I love my poems. And I think I wrote this one without ChatGPT. This was all human. I just want you to know.
Excellent. Okay.
So we're going to start out with something called OTT off the top. And a little birdie told me, I have your bio, a little birdie
Yeah.
told me that you like camping and quilting when you're not busy with your tax advisory service and writing books and traveling all over the world. So why don't we talk a little bit about camping? Why don't you fill me in? What are you camping? You glamping? Karen, talk to me.
I mean, I call it camping. Others may call it glamping because it's in a 5th wheel. But we do a lot of boondocking, which means we have our own water, we have a battery, we don't have to have electricity or, hookups. And, we use my husband wants us to use the bathhouses for the dirty jobs in the bathroom so that therefore when we empty the tank, it's, not so yucky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm like, oops. But anyway, we just got back actually from a 6-week camping trip through the Adirondacks, which ended up with his 50th high school reunion in Massachusetts. So we spent about 5 days in Massachusetts and Adirondacks. We spent 2 months going to and from California for Christmas this past year. Plan on going to the Pacific Northwest this next fall. And really just anywhere else, anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 or 4 months, and then come back home in between. And then when there's too many things to do around the house on our to-do list, we leave again. So we don't have to do it.
What do you do when you camp? Do you light a fire? Do you cook over a little stove? Do you go into the woods? You go on trails? Do you take pictures of birds? Do you run into deer and bears? I mean, tell me a little bit about the non-glamorous side.
So
What do you do?
yes to most of that. We do have electric bikes, and so we love to take those. We ride them around the campground, depending on where we are. We typically camp in state or federal campgrounds. We don't do the RV parks because we like trees. We like to not have our neighbor like right out our door.
Mhm.
So there's typically a lot of nice walking or bike riding trails, or we might be able to go out on the road depending on where we are. We also have a dog. So he loves the camping because we take him for a lot of walks. When we get home, we're a lot more lazier, believe it or not. So we take him for a walk all the time. Um, we typically we will either drive around and check out the area, maybe take some hikes and that kind of stuff. We also use it just to relax. I take my sewing machine with me. I said we'll talk a little bit about me sewing and quilting. I actually take my sewing machine with me because that's one of my favorite things to do. If the weather's
How do
nice
you
out.
power it? How do you power your sewing machine?
Well, see, we have a battery. So we have a
Okay,
large battery. So it's
got it.
Renergy, Jackery, whatever. And we charge that through a generator or the solar. And then that generates our power. And the sewing machine itself doesn't take a lot. The iron takes a lot. So I try to minimize that use. But
You just turned it
um,
into glamping in my
it,
book,
well,
Karen. You
well,
did.
and we may have, but I often will take my sewing machine outside, and sew outside because it's beautiful out, most of the time. And we do a campfire almost every night we can. When we're camping out west, a lot of times fires are not allowed
Hmm.
because of the, so we actually have bought a propane fire pit called a Yellowstone. And so we actually still have a fire, whether we have wood or whether we have the propane. It's just, it's kind of the,
Very
it's part of the
nice.
ambiance.
Ask me about my camping experience.
Let me ask you, how about your camping experience?
Thank you. I thought you'd never ask, Karen S. Well, the last time I can remember, I went to Girl Scout camp, which was just a couple of years
Good,
ago,
good for you.
decades ago. Yeah.
You,
And I remember that we had about a half a mile walk to a lake, which had yucky stuff growing in the bottom, but we had to jump in and swim in the lake. And I remember we had LATRINES,
yep,
and they were really, and you had to sit on the boards and heard everything going out. And there were, I think, cubicles for different people. And it was a very interesting experience. I think I was there for 2 weeks and I went home and told my parents, never again.
never
Don't
again.
don't you dare. It was not my thing. So yes, my other camps were more civilized because we had indoor plumbing on those.
Oh,
I went to summer camp around New York and Connecticut for many, many years. But that Girl Scout camp experience was quite interesting. I don't remember much about the food. I don't remember. And I think we took walks into town somewhere that were 5, 10 miles. We're
yep,
talking, hiking. I don't know where we end up in a general store somewhere. I don't know whether we had spending money or not. But anyway, that was my memory of camping. I have family members who bought an RV
mhm,
and they don't, well, they camp. They go to state parks around the country, and they
right,
traveled out west and they were gone for about a month earlier this year, and they book ahead space in these state parks, and they have dogs, and they set up a little fence around so the dogs can come out and play, and they just have a wonderful time. They take pictures of waterfalls and
yep,
lakes and trails, and they love it. It's
yeah,
glorified camping. They have a beautiful RV, but it's still right.
yeah.
Do you put a tent out ever, Karen? Do you do tent on the ground or inside your
Now
camp?
I stopped doing that in my 30s because I couldn't get up, I couldn't get back up off the ground after sleeping
Okay.
all night.
Okay.
We
Enough about
graduated to a pop-up to a truck camper and now a fifth wheel. I
got
do
it.
have to say though,
Yes.
we have, so the fifth wheel isn't huge, it's about 32 feet, but our truck is a very big truck. It's a dually, which means it's got the two wheels in the back. It's a full 8-foot bed as well as, a full back seat. I drove that thing like a champ, quite often, backed it into campgrounds. Bob's my navigator. But I backed it in. I know, I was very proud of myself between very narrow trees and didn't I managed to not hit anything, not run into anything, I have to say I did a really good job. I was very proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too.
Yes.
I'm very, very proud of you too.
Yeah.
Yes, girls, women, girls, females, we can
Yep.
drive.
We
I
can,
was I
absolutely.
was a demon boater on the shores of the
Yeah.
South Shore of Long Island. I had my own boat when I was 18, 19, 20, and I could dock on a dime. I could
Yep.
turn that thing around. I could pull up to a gas dock. I had an 85 horsepower Johnson with a electric lift on it, so I didn't have to lift the motor up. It had a hydraulic lift. You pushed a button, and
Uh-huh.
I could just do anything with that boat and that
I
motor.
could see you just skidding into the dock. Here she comes, ready?
Well, I was 88 pounds and I used to make my own string bikinis.
Uh-huh.
There was
Yeah.
nothing to look at, but boy, did I have fun. So anyway, we'll leave that one alone. There
Okay.
you go. Maybe I was 92 pounds, but not much. Anyway, so rumor also has it. We'll talk
Yes.
about the book in a minute. Uh, Quilting. What kind of
Yeah.
quilts? Do you have anything to show? Do you have any pictures of your
Oh my
quilts?
gosh. I don't know if I have a picture.
Anything you
I
can
have.
grab? A quilt? Grab a quilt.
I tell you what I could do.
Yeah.
While we were camping this last time,
Yes.
I decided I needed things to put all of my podcast equipment in. So here is, whoops, can you see it? Here we go.
Yes, yes, yes.
Wait,
Go ahead.
wait.
There you go. That's it.
Okay.
What? You keep
I made
disappearing.
this
There you go.
for one.
Beautiful.
I made this.
Beautiful.
Can you tell what my favorite color is?
I think it
It-
can, which doesn't go with green screen, but it's beautiful.
I know, I know.
It's
Um,
beautiful. Was that a
so
bag
I
you
make,
showed first? That was a bag you
yeah,
had
they both are. I
beautiful.
make myself. All right, come on, focus. Find me again.
Where'd your focus go?
It got mixed up with the here, let me unplug it. I don't know if that'll work. Um,
Okay, you got all blurry. Come
I
back.
know. Um, I I make bags. I'm gonna unplug and then replug.
Okay,
Um, I make nope.
there you are. You're back.
Yeah,
There she. Sort of.
nope.
Nope. You're blurry again. She's gonna
Okay.
come back.
Anyway, we'll just have to be blurry. Um,
Put your camera
so oh geez.
on. Just turn the little
Sorry about
camera
that.
on the bottom. That's okay. That's
No.
okay. We live stream because we're
Oh,
live.
there we go. Start
She's
video.
back.
There
Oh,
we are.
beautiful.
Oh,
Beautiful.
oh, come
One
on.
one more time.
One more time.
There
Oh,
we are.
there I am.
Beautiful.
And not
Okay,
blurry.
no more bags. No more
Okay,
bags.
no more
Okay.
bags.
No
We're
more
showing.
bags.
No
Okay,
more show and
good.
tell. I used to sew when I was younger in 4-H, clothes, and I have to say I won most of the competitions. My mom was my sewing teacher. And then I stopped when I had kids. The last thing I made was matching dresses for myself and my oldest daughter when I was pregnant with
Mhm.
my twins. And I hadn't sewed since then. Right before the pandemic, I have a friend who got me into quilting. And I remember at the time saying, well, yeah, I'll do some small things and maybe I'll start sewing, but I'm never going to make a big quilt. It's too hard. Well, that was, what, 3 or 4 years ago. And I've made
Mhm.
about half a dozen quilts so far. But I also make purses and tote bags and table runners. And my daughter has said pretty soon there will not be one space in your house that is not covered with something quilted. And I'm like, you are absolutely correct.
Lovely, lovely. Do you have
But
a
it's
favorite
just,
pattern for your quilt or a theme you like?
I like, obviously, anything with purple is going to draw my attention color wise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My friend that got me into this loves small pieces, intricate patterns. No, I like bigger pieces, bolder, more together. I don't like the small, intricate. I get bored. It's too little. It's too little.
Really?
I like the
Really?
bigger stuff where I can finish it sooner and quicker because so I can move on to something else.
Would it surprise you that when I was a young married and we were living in New Haven, I was commuting from New Haven on whatever Amtrak was down to New York to go. I was a Sarah Lawrence girl, where Leslie Gore ran into the bookstore. It was after Yoko Ono. It was after Barbara Walters, but they named a building on the campus after Barbara Walters. She's an alum. But anyway, and my husband was at Yale at Yale Architecture. I'm sorry, Harvard Architecture, Yale undergraduate, so many years. And I wanted to sew. I had sewn in elementary school. I sewed my dress that I played the piano at my sixth grade graduation. And it was an orange
Nice.
plaid dress and a little velvet choker with a little piece of porcelain around the neck. It was very pretty. And I played the piano in the auditorium at PS 98 in Douglaston, New York. Anyway, I wanted to sew. He found a treadle sewing machine for me, Karen. A treadle where you
Nice.
have the pedal and it's not
Pedal with
powered,
yep.
pedal back and forth. And I made aprons and I think I made some dresses for myself. And then later
Wow.
on, I went through 3 sewing machines. I wore out steel sewing machines. I think I had a Sears
Wow.
machine and a Singer and something else, and I used them. I made dresses, clothes for myself from designer patterns, suits and
Nice.
pants and dresses and coats. Fancy. I'd spend a lot of money on buttons and everything. And then I made dresses for my daughter when she was a little girl, fancy, fancy dresses.
Yep.
And I ended up buying, speaking of quilting, I ended up buying one of those miraculous do everything little patterns and monograms
Right.
sewing machines when I was in, before I moved to Durham, North Carolina, about 6 years ago.
Mhm.
I didn't like the machine. I couldn't get it to do anything. I was sampling on pillowcases and
Right.
it wasn't that easy to use. It was digital and I didn't
Yeah.
like it. Well, went to the supermarket and I like to talk to the checkers, the
Mhm.
clerks. And
Right.
there was a young man and we got to know him and he was part of a collective that was designing clothes
Wow.
and he needed a sewing machine. So I brought the machine in my car. I put
Yep.
it in a shopping cart. I wheeled it up to the checkout in addition to my groceries, and I can't remember his name. And he showed me these beautiful clothes. They had an African theme. He was
Right.
a young man of color, beautiful patterns and clothes. He had people modeling his things, and I gave him my sewing machine. I went to the manager and I said, "This is for," let's just say his name was Stephen. I don't remember
Right.
Steve. So I said, "This doesn't disappear from the cart. I'm giving the sewing machine as a gift to Steve. Where can I put it while he's working?" And she said, "Put it in the office. We'll keep it for him."
Nice.
And he thanked me copiously, and
Sure.
he was using it at the collective and sharing it with other people. And
Beautiful.
yeah, I felt really good about that. I
Beautiful.
think that was the last time I saw. I still have my mother's 1940s
Mhm.
Singer sewing machine here, Karen, in a cabinet that where the
It
opening
flips
it
up.
opens
Mhm.
up, flips up, the
Mhm.
machine slips up. It's kind of this beige,
Yep.
old fashioned,
Oh, yeah.
and I have the bobbins and I have thread and I have different foot pedals.
Yep.
But I never got into quilting. I was going to, but I didn't, so I gave away the machine. Enough about that.
Okay.
Quickly, briefly,
Yes.
before we go into why you're too saucy or how you're too saucy, tell us just a little bit about the book.
So
Both
myself
books,
and
both
bo-
books,
okay,
both books.
both books. The book we currently have that is going to be out within a month is called Widows Among Us: Stories and Insights. It is myself and my two co-authors, Karen and Rebecca. We
Hmm.
are all three widows, all three at different times and stages in our life, different marriage years. But we became friends and decided that we wanted to not only tell our story, but to tell it so that other women, as well as widows, knew that whatever they were experiencing was okay. It was normal. Nobody needed to tell them how they should or should not be feeling. We basically tell our stories, our journey of who we were, our journey through grief, and the transformation and who we are afterwards. It also has helpful hints for what to do to be prepared before becoming a widow, whether it's household, financial, paperwork, what you might be feeling as a widow, and also what friends and family can say or do to help a widow. And we actually like to say it's helpful for widows, but honestly, women, particularly women that are over 50 or 55, the average age of widowhood is 59 and a half. I
Mm,
was personally 47 when I was widowed. My husband was 49. It was very sudden of a heart attack of driving to work one
mm,
day, so we had no
mm.
time to prepare. Um, so we want women to know that while we certainly hope that it's not something's going to happen anytime soon or when they're young, they should be prepared regardless. And that's part of what our book is. And it's a story. It's stories. It's a feel good. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
it's a feel good book. It's not depressing, it's not down, it's
Yep.
emotional,
I
but
read
it's fun.
part of it, and the three of you, each of you, is so talented and so interesting as individuals,
Thank you.
widows or not. You're
Yeah.
all in, and that's why I've invited each of you to be on my show here and on my Read My Lips show. You wrote another book.
Then
What's
I
that one?
did.
What's that one?
So the first one I wrote, and this was not too long after Sam died, when as I talk to other women in particular, and they would tell me, oh, I don't have any of my documents ready. Oh, my husband takes care of all of that. No, I wouldn't know what to do. Yeah, he has a business. I know nothing about it. I realized that women in particular, but anybody really, needs a way to help organize their documents, their financial, legal, and insurance documents. So I created basically a workbook. It's not a place to store the documents, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
place to record the information within those documents. So you can basically look at a page and say, oh, here's where the paperwork is.
Oh.
Here's the basics of what it says. If it's financial, like if it's an insurance or retirement policy, who are the beneficiaries? Um, who's a financial advisor you should call when you have that question? Who's your doctor? Where are your papers filed? What
Mm-hmm.
kind of, how do you keep your books? All that kind of information. Because there's two, and my thought behind it, and people that I've talked to have backed this up. There's two things with it. First of all, many people are overwhelmed with what to do or where to
Yep.
even start.
True.
This is a black and white. You write things down on paper. So there's no emotion attached to it that in that sense, you're just writing down facts. This is
Mm-hmm.
what the document says. Oh, I don't have that document. Oh, that was written a long time ago. I should probably update that. So you can make some
Mm-hmm.
non-emotional comments or whatever it is. And then once the information is in there, it's easy to look at and go, oh, they're my beneficiaries. Do I really still like them enough to become a beneficiary? Do I
Ooh.
really want that person to get my money?
Ooh.
No, but yeah, exactly. So as life changes, you can easily look at what you have and make a decision as to whether you should revisit it again, because you really should look at that important paperwork every 5 to 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
or anytime there is a life event, anything that changes your life significantly, whether emotionally, financially, whatever it is. Um, it also, and I will just tell you a very brief story, but this is unfortunately very typical. I Somebody was telling me of one of their neighbors. She was married, second marriage, never got around to retitling. It was his house, never got around
Ooh.
to retitling it in her
Ooh. Ooh.
house.
Ooh.
Didn't, cars, all that kind of stuff.
Ooh.
He dies unexpectedly. He had a lot of debt. So the debtors came and took the house, took the cars, and as a really slap in the face, the retirement accounts and life insurance went to the ex-wife. Nothing
Gulp.
had been
Gulp.
changed. She
Gulp.
was left
Yep.
with nothing.
Wow.
And it happens way more often than you would
Yep.
expect it. So that is my plug for ladies in particular.
Yep.
But all people, just get your paperwork done. Whatever
Yep.
it's going to cost you with the lawyer to get it done, it is going to
Do it.
cost you or your heirs a gazillion times more to fix it afterwards. And you might be left with next to or nothing if you aren't careful and take care of things.
It's
So
great
that's my plug.
advice. My
It's a workbook available
Yep.
on Amazon. It's called I Didn't See That Coming by Karen Smith Rassicott. So
Good title. Good title.
yeah.
My dad left a little handwritten notebook for my mom
Mm-hmm.
on where everything was with the names and phone numbers of the key people to call, the accountant and
Yep.
other people. And I think everything had been put in her name before
Yeah.
that. And he passed away
Sure.
in 95 and she lived to 100. He
Mm-hmm.
was 83 and she lived to 100 and lived very well because he left her decently off.
Yes.
Not opulent,
It's
but decently off. But she
but enough.
knew from that little book exactly what to do, and they had discussed things. And he was very old fashioned, but he wrote everything down in a notebook. Here's where
What a
this is.
gift,
Yeah, what a
right?
gift! What a
What
gift!
a gift. And
So I want
yeah.
to talk about Saucy. We're here to talk
Okay.
about Saucy.
Saucy,
You're
saucy.
already saucy, but let's
Yep.
go through a couple of songs that
Okay.
you would define if somebody said, "What's so saucy about Karen S? What does it even mean to her?" What songs would you pick from popular music, Karen, that
Well,
would define you? Go ahead.
I like the Kelly Clarkson song Stronger. What doesn't kill you
Oh,
makes you stronger.
yes.
Because, and a part of that is based on what I've been through, losing my husband unexpectedly at an early age. Before he died, I really thought I couldn't go on without him. And I can, and I have, and I've done well. And I'm proud of me. He's proud of me. I know he is. And Yeah, it's all about moving forward and becoming stronger, right?
Song number 2.
The close within that is "I Will Survive." First of all,
Mm-hmm.
because I love the tune to it.
Yep.
I
Oh yeah,
love the song. I really do.
absolutely.
But also, again, the heartfelt. And thirdly, this is probably my current husband could probably attest to this is probably my theme song, "You Don't Own Me." Because just because, well, first of all, the movie, oh my gosh, with Bette Midler and oh my gosh, what is that movie? I know it. I know it. I'll think of it. Anyway, Bette Midler and Diane Keaton and Jeez, Pete. Anyway, second marriages and everything.
Yep.
Um, I I'm very independent. I have taught my daughters to be extremely independent, sometimes a little too independent for me, but that's okay. Um, that I get to make my own choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not, and even with Sam, I am not and will not let somebody tell me what I can and cannot do. Now, we will have conversations and I'm certainly open for ideas and suggestions, but don't tell me no because I will
Mm-hmm.
do it. Now, I get that from my mother, right? Don't
Yep.
tell me no because then I'll go ahead and do it anyway, just out of spite, right? So
Interesting.
both of my husbands have learned to, okay, let's talk about that. Okay, don't tell me no, but
You
yes, we can
are
discuss
saucy.
it.
I made a music video years ago. You may have heard the story with a music
Mhm.
group called Tony
Oh,
Ferrari's The
first,
Chaperones. Go ahead.
first wives club.
First Wives Club. Okay,
That's the
yes.
movie.
Bette Midler and Diane Keaton.
Yes,
Yes. I made a
love that movie.
music video where I sang You Don't Own Me. And
Mhm.
the drummer in the band lived on the water on Long Island on the South Shore. We went to his house and or he lived near a beach. We went to the beach and the whole band and we made a little ring, or he bought a ring at Kresge's or somewhere, five and dime, or made a tinfoil ring. And I threw it into the water. And Tony, who was Tony Ferrari, it was his group, he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "You don't own me." And I threw it into the water. Well, we filmed that. And then we went to my TV studio in Great Neck where I was doing my cable access shows. And we turned the studio into the equivalent of a high school gymnasium with
Wow.
crepe paper. And the band invited their wives, their girlfriends. I invited my crew to bring their mothers, their sisters, anybody. We packed the place and we played the song You Don't Own Me. And I was dancing with somebody else. And I looked over this man's shoulder and the camera caught me looking at Tony and saying, "You don't own me." My voice was so weak at the time. I was taking singing lessons. You
Right.
know the old joke, what did you do with the money your mother gave you for singing lessons? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it wasn't that bad, but anyway, it wasn't strong enough. So the band had a girl singer they work with sometimes. So they had her dub over my voice
that's
and
funny.
we made a music video.
Ah,
Well, the funny story is a few years prior to that, I had run into Leslie Gore in the bookstore because we were
okay.
both at Sarah Lawrence College. So I remembered that. I never contacted her. I think she was a Long Island girl too. I never said, "Hey, Leslie, I did a music video cover." Anyway, I don't know what happened to the video. I don't know where it was, but we aired it on the local TV channel many times. So that's a very interesting song for me. Are you okay?
I'm good. Trying to close the door for the dog.
Okay, close the door.
I had it. I
Looks
had
like
it
you're
closed. I
in that
left it
eye
open.
behind you. So that was so my three songs are it's funny you mentioned that. I've had the time of my life, Bill Medley from Dirty Dancing,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
think I still am, but it's a little quieter now. Dancing Queen by ABBA and Happy Dance by Mercy Me. If you haven't seen the video, look it up. Mercy Me is a Christian group. I normally would not follow them, but a radio guest suggested this as one of her songs for a quote on my radio show. Happy Dance. The video is unbelievable. I play it and I dance around my kitchen.
Nice.
And she works hard for the money. Donna Summer. I was a disco dancer in contests and exhibition dancing as a disco dancer with a partner. You Don't Know Me is on my list, and It's My Party by Leslie Gore, and I'll cry if I want to.
Right.
So sometimes we do. Sometimes we do. Okay, quick question. I wasn't
Yep.
planning on asking this. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Why? How do you drink it?
A little bit of sugar. And first thing in the morning, 1 cup, I'm good. It's more of a ritual than anything, honestly, anymore, but I didn't start drinking it till I was in my 40s.
You brew it, you make it in a pod in a French cup. What do you do?
I brew it. Just again, it's a 1 cup, or it's not a Keurig thingy, but I can make either a pot or 1 cup at a time. Now,
Okay.
my husband's a tea drinker. He will drink hot tea all day long. I don't care if it's 100 degrees outside, he'll drink hot tea. So, and it's
I
Lipton Black, nothing fancy.
I have a new, I can't deal with caffeine anymore, so I have a new way of brewing tea. I'll heat water in I have a Bonnie mug or I have mugs, Truth Story and Power with sayings on them.
Yeah,
I'll take water filtered from the refrigerator, fill the mug almost to the top, put it in the microwave, heat it up for about a minute. It isn't boiling yet. Put a decaf, a peppermint tea bag into the cup in the microwave and cook it for another 30 to 60 seconds till it's hot. I'll drink a little bit of it with whatever I'm having for lunch. And then here's the magic to me. I refill the glass with more water from the fridge. I have a spout on the inside the door, not the outside. I have the inside one. It's hard
right.
to use, but it doesn't take up room in the door. And I'll stick the cup, no sugar, no lemon, no nothing, no milk. Stick it in the fridge and let it cool. And then I'll grab that cup later in the day for iced tea. No lemon, no sugar. I don't doctor it. And
Right.
then I might refill it 2 or 3 more times and use it for another day or two as a refreshing drink with the same tea bag,
Same tea bag.
same tea
Okay.
bag. And a peppermint tea. And then the container it comes in, the little pouch,
Uh-huh.
smells so good. Sometimes I'll put that on the counter and just let it
Just to
scent
have the
the
nice.
kitchen. Yes,
I
it's
bet that
lovely.
peppermint, it's a nice clean,
Oh,
clean.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, your creativity superpower, do you have one? What is it? You love it or you hate it?
I'm not sure if you would consider this creative or not, but it's such an ingrained part of me is the fact that I love things to be organized and in its place. My shelves of fabric are all color coded in little, like I don't buy like yards of it at a time. I buy like fat quarters and half yards, and so they're all in little containers, all color coordinated, all on the shelves, and um, I just like to have things in order and I like to know where they are and et cetera, et cetera. My husband does not.
Okay.
Does not.
Okay.
So that,
We
I
all
don't
know
know if
that now.
I don't know if I married him because I know I'd always have a challenge. I didn't realize how bad I was or he was when we got married, but that's okay. Anyway, I really think, I mean, and there is some creativity in that
Hmm.
because
Oh, yeah.
it's organized in such a way that if he says, "Where's such and such?" I could be like, we could be at different ends of the earth, and I could say, "You go into this cabinet, into this drawer, into that,
Hmm.
whatever," and that's where it's going to be, unless he has borrowed it, and God only knows where it is, but that's another story. So
Interesting. Interesting.
now, that being said, you will not walk into my house and find everything put away, right? I'm not
Okay.
a neat freak. I just like things
Okay.
organized and they might get a little out of control. And then I'm like, I literally, all right, so the downside is when two downsides. Number one, when things are messy, I literally cannot function. Like I have to
Mm.
straighten it up in order for me to function because
Mm.
my brain just cannot handle the fact that it's messy.
Interesting.
The other downside is anytime I don't want to do something, I will find something that needs organized. So that's my out for, oh, gee, I would do this, but first I have to organize that. So that's a downside because I use it as
That's
an
your
excuse.
excuse. Isn't that funny? I turned the sunroom in this house, which was an added on because the window at what they had as the formal dining room, the
Mhm.
people who owned the house before me, it has a window and a door, but they added a room, no heating, no air conditioning, but it stays comfortable in the winter. I have a
Right.
little heater in there. And in the summer, it's not so bad. I open the door to the main house and the air conditioner goes out and
Goes out.
it's very
Mhm.
pleasant. But I have acrylic paints. I have a little cabinet with my acrylics and my watercolors, and I have boxes with my glitter glue, my
Yep.
pourable glue, my Mod Podge, whatever. And then I collect wrappers from packages and tinfoil from the inside of cookies when I used to buy cookies, and I keep them in boxes stacked. But what's interesting to me is that if I find a container, let's say a container with something not too stinky like Parmesan cheese, but something that's a good plastic container, I will wash it thoroughly and clean it and bring it out to my art studio
Mhm.
and use it. So I'm recycling
Nice.
throwaways. And
Yes.
and so you'll find it. I love Hershey cocoa, the unsweetened cocoa. I use it in baking. I use it sometimes I make hot chocolate, chocolate pudding. And when I'm done with that, I hate to throw them away because they're so pretty and it's not square, it's a
Right.
rectangle, and it's
Mhm.
about 6 inches deep. I'll use that for my brushes. I'll fill it with
Nice.
water and put it
Yep.
out there. So I've got
Nice.
packaging in my art studio to organize things, and it's
Absolutely.
pie tins. I make
Mhm.
quiche
Okay.
frequently, and I use the Pet Ritz frozen crust, but I make the insides myself, the filling.
Mhm.
And if the dough doesn't stick, sometimes it sticks
Right.
to the tinfoil, but if it's cleanable, I have a stack of those. I keep them and I'll put it out there, and I might put some paint or paste or something in there.
Right.
Uh,
I was gonna say, yeah, you use it if you paint, you can put your paint there and dip
yeah,
into it or whatever, and you're not getting something like a
absolutely.
brand new paper plate or something.
So
So,
I know pretty much, but I have been bamboozled. I was looking for a light fixture here. I moved here 2 years ago and I
mhm.
couldn't find it. I tore the house apart for 2 days. I
Uh-oh.
couldn't find it. My mother
Okay.
was an antique dealer and I had a beautiful fixture I wanted to put into the living room to replace the fixture there.
Right.
Well, it turned out over the fireplace, it's an electric fireplace. I never use it. There's a great big hole in the wall that's a cabinet that goes back with no door on it. They must have had a TV, an old-fashioned TV.
Yep.
It's like 2 feet, 3 feet deep.
Wow.
And my mother collected a gorgeous picture of a dead duck lying over fruit and vegetables in this big still life scene.
Okay.
Got a formal frame around the thing's about 4 feet wide by 3 feet tall. We hung it over this hole in the wall above the
Good.
fireplace.
Okay.
All of the light fixtures
That's where
were
it was.
in the hole. I put them there for safekeeping. And 2 days
That's
later,
too
I went
funny.
up with my phone and put the flashlight on the iPhone and looked into the corner. This painting
Right.
doesn't quite cover, and I looked
Okay.
into the corner, and there's the light fixtures, the bowl. It's a big bowl, and there's separate pieces that go around. They're laughing at me. Ha
Yeah.
ha, we were
Absolutely.
here the whole time. It's like when Tweety, our parakeet, we thought was missing when I was about 10 years old. We combed the whole neighborhood. We had the whole neighborhood looking for Tweety was sitting on top of the heavy drapes in the living room laughing at us. I wrote a poem
Absolutely.
about it.
You're like,
Abs
yeah, yeah, I'm just gonna observe this and
just going to enjoy all these people going crazy. So, did you bring me some interesting headlines, Karen S? That you'd like to
good.
share? Why don't you do one, then I'll do one, we'll do one, and I'll do one. Go ahead.
Right. So there is one. Smelly penguin wins New Zealand hard-fought bird election.
What?
Uh, Yeah.
Go
The
ahead.
bird is very noisy and smelly, but very shy. He is endangered, and they have a contest every year to pick a bird. And they have a contest every year, and this bird is endangered. So they're hoping that the recognition will bring some light to this noisy, smelly, but very shy bird.
And it was elected to what? What was the
Well, no, so
election?
it was
Selected?
selected, I guess you could say. They voted. Where's yeah. Well, it's they say election. That was what the
Okay.
thing said, but
Okay.
it was selected. It was, chosen.
Cho-
So anyway,
the
smelly
chosen
penguin.
smelly penguin. Interesting, interesting.
Hmm.
Well, I have one since you are a traveler and a camper. This is called Driving Every Mile of the World's Largest Yard Sale. And this was an
Oh,
article written by somebody named Luke Sharrett on September 1st. And he went to all 6 states in 3 days and followed the garage sale. And let me just read the opening of the article. Spanning approximately 690 miles from northern Alabama to southern Michigan, the U.S. Route 127 yard sale claims to be the world's longest. Now in its 37th year, the event on the first weekend of August is an annual magnet for bargain seekers, antique pickers, road trippers, and entrepreneurs of all ages. It goes through 6 states. There's no telling what you'll find: a basket of old prescription glasses, sun-worn yard flamingos, homemade Teletubby dolls, bootleg Taylor Swift bedroom curtains. Oh my God. Regardless of where one starts, the hunting grounds are in front yards, parking lots, farm fields, trailer parks, driveways of 3-story homes, and everywhere in between. There is no barrier to entry to participate. It's called secondhand capitalism, and the reporter photographed the entire route over 3 days. In Alabama, a mustard yellow hand painted sign the size of a ping pong table marks the starting point of the Route 127 yard sale in Gadsden, with a rough map through Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. And I'll just tell you one example, a lemonade stand run by 7-year-old Gatlin Smith of Piedmont, Alabama, raises money. He wants to buy a PlayStation 5. There you go.
Wow.
I thought you as a traveler would get a kick out of that. And Luke documented the highlights with pictures. I don't have the pictures in my notes here. The pictures of examples of what people were selling, the wackiest. And some people have been selling in this thing for 10, 15 years. They say, my regulars know I'm here every year, and they come back and they find me. So pretty cool beans, right?
2 comments. Number 1, I hope my husband is not watching because he'll want to go and collect more junk. And number 2,
Next August.
if it were quilt stores, I would be there.
Okay. And they even some of the people are in front of a general store where people wait online to get homemade ice cream, and
Okay.
and they're playing checkers at tables inside the store. It's very country, and it's
It's an
very,
adventure.
very charming adventure. Absolutely. So that's
Absolutely.
my first one. What's your second one?
Okay, so another one is a mailed job application was returned to a woman after nearly 50 years. Now,
Seriously.
it's in Britain, so I can't blame the US Post Office for it. With a note that said, "Sorry for the late delivery. This was found behind a drawer." The application had been in her 20s because she's now 70. The application had been for a motorcycle stunt rider, but she never heard back from the studio and she never knew why. And now she does because it never got delivered.
At 70, she's gonna do motorcycle, but you never know. She could.
Right? She might, right?
Oh, that is a right. Did she name the company she applied to?
No, actually, I think, well, of course, it's Britain, so I don't know for sure. I don't know if it was
Okay.
universal, but
I wonder if
50
they
years
have
ago, who knows?
Harley. Of course, they have Harleys over there. Interesting.
I'm sure.
50
Yeah, I
years
thought that
ago.
was funny.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of back in the day, I found an article called Life in 1960s America by the Numbers. And it's
Okay.
on a website called historyfacts.com. And we know the 60s had the counterculture and the civil rights movement, but they also had the British invasion by the Beatles and the Stones and pop music, and life looked very different. So this author took a snapshot of day-to-day life in the 60s, and I'll just read you the highlights. 42% of adults were smokers.
Oh,
The
wow.
smoking rate in the US reached a peak of 47% of adults, including 50% of doctors. By the end of 1952, cigarette sales declined a little bit in 53 and 54, but the introduction of filtered cigarettes created a rebound. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the average price of a haircut, $2.05. In 1966, the national average for the price of a men's haircut was $1.95. That would be $19.03 in today's money. For women, it was $2.16. So we were 21 cents more than a man's haircut. Today, that would be $20.79, unless she got a permanent wave. Oh my God, which cost $12.15 on average. Today, that would be $118.57. The permanent wave, was a multi-step process to make long-lasting curls. Okay, it took 6 to 8 hours to complete. And the most expensive city for men to get a haircut was Chicago. It was $2.48. Dallas was the cheapest at $1.79. Interesting. Chicago was the cheapest city for women's haircuts. $2.08 or $20.30 today for a conventional cut, 11, which was $109 today for a permanent wave. The most expensive city for women was Washington, D.C., $3.31 and 18.19 for a perm. Interesting. 72% of adults were married. The median age for brides in 1960 was 20.1. The median age for grooms was 24.2. And the percentage of adults who were married was the majority of 72% in 1960. I'm going to stop on that one. The average price for groceries was under $1. Most grocery staples in the 60s was less than $1. A 5-pound bag of flour was 61 cents. A dozen eggs, 66 cents. A pound of beef, called hamburger, even when not in a patty, was 55 cents. A box of cornflakes, generic, was 32 cents. Don't even want to ask what those are today. A 3-minute phone call across the country was $2. Phone service is more affordable today than in the 1960s. In 1960, the cost of a 3-minute call from New York to San Francisco was $2.25. It dropped to $1.75 by the end of 67. With inflation, the $2 average for that call would be $19.89 today. Interesting. And 75% of typewriters sold in the 60s were IBM Selectrics. And that's because an IBM engineer named Horace Bud Beatty developed a mushroom-shaped type element that replaced the basket of type bars that were jamming all the time. Okay. The Selectric was capable of printing 186 words per minute, ergonomic keys, 8 color combinations. It took 7 years for them to complete the prototype. It went on sale on July 31st, 1961. The first year sales hit 80,000, topping projections by 400%. It became the new standard in offices and a 94% market share for typewriters. What do you think of that, Karen S? Pretty cool?
So, funny story.
Yeah.
My dad used to work for Sam and I in the accounting business in the 90s, early 2000s, and he had 2 or 3 IBM Selectric typewriters.
Mhm.
Because if he had to type anything, like, we did have computers and stuff, but, again, you're talking 90s. It wasn't like it is today. He
Mhm.
would pull out that IBM Selectric and type up whatever he needed to. And if for some reason it went wrong, he'd put that one away and pull another one off the shelf. So when he died, I think he owned 3 of them.
Like me
Yeah,
with my sewing machines. I own 3 sewing
exactly,
machines at a
exactly.
time. When one couldn't get the bobbin in or something,
Yep,
I'd pull out the
pull
other
another
one.
one.
Isn't that funny? What's your third article?
Okay, so my third article was there's a moose on the loose in a New Hampshire swimming pool. Somehow a moose got underneath of a pool cover in a pool, and the police had to come and take the cover, like roll the cover back and take the cover off so that the moose then could go up the stairs and out. So I actually saw a video of that. It was pretty funny. Poor moose. He was very
Poor
no
moose.
idea what had happened to him, but
I happen to have a great recipe for mousse, but the kind made with heavy cream and dark
okay.
chocolate and
Okay, yeah,
vanilla and
exactly, exactly.
sugar.
Not
Yes.
the not the ones with legs and antlers. Okay.
No, 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 no. And you don't have many after you eat this, you just want to sit down, you don't have legs to do anything. My last one is similar. I won't read the whole thing. It was very long, but hummingbirds thrive on an extreme lifestyle. Here's how. Hummingbirds apparently have an all sugar diet that would kill humans. Diabetes would be unbelievable. They can fly backwards and long migrations, and they're mighty. Everyone loves to watch hummingbirds, tiny, brightly colored blurs that dart about, hovering at flowers and defending their ownership of a feeder, excuse me, if they get really tired because of the long distance, and they can fly upside down and backwards, by the way, and there are scientists who study them, they go into at night a state of torpor. It's a hibernation where they let their body temperature drop to that of the air. It saves the energy so they can recuperate. In a few minutes, it makes them vulnerable, but they can recuperate. Hummingbirds have a trick to make them, this is the trick, a torpid at night, dropping the body temperature sometimes a few degrees above freezing. They look comatose. They can't respond to stimuli. They only breathe once an hour, but it helps their metabolism. They deal with sugar to fuel their high metabolic rate. They suck 80% of their body weight in nectar every day. That's the equivalent of a 150-pound person drinking 120-ounce Coca-Colas a day.
Oh my gosh.
And nectar, that's how much sugar they take in. Unbelievable. They're suggesting people who want to help support the hummingbird population plant hummingbird friendly flowers. Be careful about pesticides. Take precautions to keep them from crashing into your windows. And they have all kinds of science here about this. Just amazing. They put geo trackers on 8 birds. Some birds lived in the high Andes year round. Others, a different species, migrated to the Andes from breeding grounds along the coast of Chile. Interesting. They make a 5,000-mile trip. Okay. And they go into thinner air. So interesting. Mighty little birds who are a phenomenon, unbelievable with a high metabolic rate, and they are sugar suckers. There you
And
go.
please, if anybody does put stuff out to feed hummingbirds, pure sugar water, no red dye. Do not put red dye in there. It actually will kill them. They are
Oh
attracted to
my gosh.
red, so make the hummingbird feeder have some red on the feeder, but do not put it in the water.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. There was a hummingbird feeder when I moved here and the glass broke and I didn't replace it. I've got all kinds of different colored, different species of
Yeah.
birds around my property, but maybe next spring I'll put up a
I
hummingbird.
love hummingbirds. I got some awesome pictures of them when we used to when we used to
Next
live in
time
the
you come
cabin.
on, you bring your bird
Okay,
pictures.
I will.
Karen S., I hope you had a good time.
I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And I want to do an outro now. And you are a saucy woman, and I'm a saucy dame, and we're dames, and here we are.
Absolutely.
And so I've spoken with you and with Karen J. and with Rebecca L. And I'm very pleased to have met the three of you. And again, the author of what's the name of that book that's coming out?
Widows Among Us. And our website is threewidows.com. Please go to it, check it out, sign up for our mailing list. I promise we won't spam you because I do the newsletter and I don't have enough time.
It's spelled THREE, correct?
THREE widows.com.
Widows.com. I'm going to play the music. And by the way, I wrote the lyrics to this, and it is sung and composed and played by my good friend Serge Huffman in Paris. He's very popular writing music for all kinds of orchestras and all kinds of projects. I just had a Zoom catch-up call with him, and we're going to do some more work together soon. And the song is So You Want to Be. And here we go. Outro, we'll wave goodbye. And here we go, Karen. Let me raise the volume here.
So you wanna be a cool
Stick around. We'll talk for a minute afterwards.
handy with a ink itself.
We did 45 minutes.
Looking
Wow.
real
So much to talk about.
cool and fine.
I'll be starting a Saucy Dame and Cool Dude show soon. You don't want to miss that one. Watch for me. Here we go. Here's the drum. Bop, 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 bop.